to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're starting a little bit late. We had an executive session before this, and it put us off just a tiny bit. Ian, would you like to read the vacancies, and then I'll read our agenda?
Sure. Vacancies: Country Club Operating Committee, 1 non-voting associate. Design Review Board, 1 member. Green Technology Advisory Group, unlimited membership. Historical Commission, 2 non-voting associates. Recreation Commission, 1 non-voting associate. Sandra Pond Conservation Area Wardens, 1 member. Senior and Disabled Taxation Aid Committee, 2 members. Senior Disabled Taxation Relief Committee, 3 members. Trustees of Soldiers Memorials, 2 members. Westborough Housing Authority, 2 members on an interim appointment until March 2019 town election, and Zoning Board of Appeals, 1 alternate member.
Okay. So our agenda tonight is open forum. Is there going to be anyone here for open forum? We have 1 person. Okay. Then we have a discussion and vote on Veteran Services Regional Contract Renewal, an interview appointment to the Senior Disabled Taxation Relief Committee, interview appointment to the Green Technology Advisory Group, a discussion and vote on the Westborough Rotary Field of Flags, electronic permitting presentation, a discussion and vote on an account for K9 program, that's the dog, K9 program, vote to award the bid for Lyman Street Tennis and Pickle Courts, a discussion and vote on changes to library positions, vote to accept and sign a grant for trail easements, and a vote to sign a letter of support for a grant, request to sign November election warrant, and update on early voting by town clerk, Spur House update and board comments on RFP, discussion and vote on easement at 299 Lyman Street, excuse me, update on town manager transition items, interim town manager's report, issues and correspondence of selectmen, and then next agenda, draft items. So, Mr. Story, you're here for open forum?
Just clarification on
Yes.
the item on the grant of easement. It's 288 Lyman Street. I'm not sure if that was what you had read.
Did I say it wrong, Ian?
I believe so. Just for clarification.
Easement at 288 Lyman Street?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for catching that. Mr. Story.
Thank you. Earl Story, 258 East Main Street. As you know, that we've had a reevaluation in town of everybody's property. And as of the first of the year, the average home is going to go up between $700 and $800. So I would like the Board of Selectmen, one of you on the Board of Selectmen, we want transparency, and I would ask you to announce that at town meeting before we vote on one article, because we haven't set the tax rate yet, and that will happen naturally after town meeting. And Jonathan Steinberg's here if you doubt what I'm saying, but I'm kind of carrying the message here, and it's kind of been a little pet peeve of mine that people need to know that their taxes are going up, and it's because of a reevaluation. But at the first of the year, no matter what you vote on at town meeting, that's happening. Whether you vote on anything or you vote on everything, that's happening. So I'd appreciate it if that could be done at town meeting. Is that possible? That you would tell the taxpayer?
Well, we can take that under advisement and decide whether we want to do that.
Yeah. Is it possible to have an estimate, as Mr. Story is saying, that if all of the articles pass as they are?
We always do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for, Mr. Story?
No, it's not. It's something entirely different.
I want you to listen to me. Your taxes in this town are going up at the first of the year. On average, every home is going to pay between $700 and $800 today, right now. It's already done. Now, whatever you do at town meeting, it could add to that. It's not going to subtract from it.
Right. You just want us to
the taxpayer needs to know that before they're voting on articles. Yeah. Sure. That they don't. A lot of people, most of the people have no idea that's happening to them.
Right.
So we talk about transparency on this.
Well, we usually have the town manager. In this instance, it'll be the interim town manager, give a very brief financial update at the beginning. That can certainly be included in that update.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay. Just so people know. Yes?
I know it was open forum, but where John is here, can we just clarification on that. Would the board be
Sure.
okay?
Yep.
So I think what I heard, it's on the average single-family home, 700, 800, but is that just because of valuation, not including monies that were already appropriated at Springtown meeting?
Sure.
So-
John Steinberg, Chief Assessor. The average excuse me, revaluation has been completed and the preliminary certification has been obtained. The values are now up on the website. It's posted on the town's homepage. There's a link directly to it, it describes what was done. The average single-family value is going from 473 to 518. And then as for the projected tax rate based upon spending, I believe the FinCom book will represent a projected tax rate on average single-family tax increase. I'm not going to state the exact number because I don't recall it off the top of my head, but between $750 and $800 for that average single-family house. That doesn't mean everybody's is. Some will go up more, some will go up less, some might even go down, but that's based upon the spending and the math based upon the total value.
Thank you. It's clear.
Okay?
Thank you. And I just wanted the public to know, I think maybe sometimes you wonder what we do to get ready, but our package tonight is not unusual in that we had to look at 198 pages of background for tonight's meeting. Okay, discussion and vote on Veteran Services Regional Contract Renewal, and I think we have Justin Sousa here for that. Hey, Justin.
Hey, good evening. I'm Justin Souza, Director of Veteran Services for the district that serves Westborough. So our district is up for renewal. It was a 2-year extension from November 2016, and that's up November 30th. It's the email I got when I asked for guidance on renewal of the district. This is my first time doing a renewal. From the Department of Veteran Services, they said they need a letter stating that you wish to continue operating as a district. So I'm here tonight to answer your questions about the district, if you have any, and to ask that the Board of Selectmen approve the request to renew the district.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Westborough's continued participation in the Central Massachusetts Veteran Services District and authorize the chair to sign the renewal letter.
Second.
Okay, any questions on that?
I just have a question, maybe I should know this. What is the cost to us to operate as a district?
So we pay $21,000 into the district. So we pay, the calculation is based on the number of veterans in the towns, and so we pay.
It's based on the general population
Oh, sorry.
number. Sorry.
That's okay.
Corrected.
So overall.
So we pay 21% of the district.
How much did you say?
21% or 21,000?
21% of the
10%.
district.
Yes.
One is, I think, when we instituted this, it was great to provide, as we looked at it, better services, kind of full-time services to the 4 communities and improve the services to Westborough. I personally haven't heard any concerns or complaints about that. So I guess the first question, Christy, I'm not sure the rest of the board is if they've heard anything. Everything I've heard has been extremely favorable of that. I guess the question that I have, though, is this requires the 4 towns, so the other 3 towns and ourselves. Have you, are we the first one you've gone to, or have you gone to others, and any reaction or?
Well, I've spoken with the board of directors for the district, which is made up of the town administrators or their representative, usually the assistant town administrators, and they were all in favor, so they're bringing this to the boards for the board's approval. I haven't talked to any other towns yet.
But so Justin's actually going to Shrewsbury tonight.
Yes.
And then next week, he'll go before Northborough and Grafton.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
No further
So we
questions?
have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you for the good job you're doing for our veterans, Justin.
Well, thank you very much, and no news is good news.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
good.
have recently gotten a couple accolades from a few of the different veterans in the towns, and the assessor's office in Northborough recently let me know that they helped a veteran because of the information that our district was able to provide, so.
That's wonderful to
great.
hear. Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So Wendy, do I need to sign that in front of you?
It doesn't need to be notarized.
Doesn't need to be signed, okay. All right, now into
Thank you very
you and
much.
interview and appointment to the Senior Disabled Taxation Relief Committee. Is Bob Adair here? Oh, we sent you away earlier, Bob.
Sorry about that.
Welcome back.
I was barging in, I was sorry about that.
Yes.
You were early, it's great.
So we've all read your credentials, which look absolutely wonderful. Would you like to speak briefly as to how you'd like to volunteer?
Yes, I was just going to go over some of my credentials if there was anybody in the audience, but I don't need to do that if you all have a copy of that sheet. You all have a copy of that?
But
We do,
feel free to,
Yeah.
this is your chance, so feel
I
free,
will do
please
that.
do.
Again, I'm Bob Abier, and I'm a member of the, I'm applying to be a member of the Senior Disability Taxation Committee. I live at 8 Blossom Court, which is a Orchard Hill condominium. I was born and raised in Shrewsbury, and I moved to Orchard Hill in 2011. I am married to a great wife, Mary. We recently celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. I've got 2 great daughters. One graduated from BU, one graduated from BC. Both professionals in their community, and 4 wonderful grandchildren. I'm a graduate of Clark University. I'm a graduate of Worcester Polytech School for Industrial Management, and I'm a graduate of the Emory School of Computer Science. I've been in manufacturing, consulting for 45 years, opened up my own consulting business when I was 34 years old, and recently retired about 4 years ago. I work primarily helping companies, Fortune 500 companies and some smaller companies, but maintaining jobs in the United States. We put in new manufacturing systems and worked on a process called lean manufacturing. But our chief goal was to keep jobs in this country. I've been a member of a lot of different boards. I'm currently a member of the Board of Directors and Finance Committee at Orchard Hill Condominium Association. I'm on that Finance Committee right now. I'm also an active board member at Macaulay Nazareth Home for Boys. We run a very special program, residential program for boys in trouble, for troubled youth, ages 6 to 12. They come to us usually from the state. Significant emotional and psychological problems, and we've got just a wonderful program there. I've been on that board for 20 years. I'm currently serving on that board right now. We're going through a major rebuilding of the entire facility. We've got $1 million rehab program going on. Very exciting time for us, by the way. I'm also a member of that Building and Grounds Committee and handling a lot of the finances for that $1 million expansion. I'm a past member of the National Religious Fund Drive, also for retired religious. Why am I here? A few months ago, Saeed Hashim contacted our board president at Orchard Hill, Jeff Rasmussen, about becoming involved with the Senior Taxation Committee. I guess it hasn't been that active. Seniors haven't been too active a voice in town. And Jeff came to me right away. I've been on that board for a long time, and mentioned, Bob, this might be something that you'd really be interested in, and I am. Westborough, as I said in this note, is certainly a desirable community to live in, great resale value and everything else. But it's very high taxes and very high condominium fees, and it's starting to outprice itself for many of our senior citizens. And I'd like to be able to get on a committee and see if we can get a little stronger voice for our seniors. And that's really why I'm applying for that committee.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, could I make a
Have a
motion?
motion? Sure.
Yeah. I make a motion to appoint Bob Adair to the Senior Disabled Taxation Relief Committee
Mhm.
For an indefinite.
for an indefinite period.
Okay, second? Okay. Any further questions or discussion?
Madam Chair, may I? First, this is the first time I've met. I'm the guy in question. I don't know whether to thank you or to say how foolhardy you are, but I'm so glad that you have stepped up. Thank you. And I hope to work with you. And we need additional members, and so I hope you can find them, and I look forward to working with you.
Great.
And I look forward to receiving your newsletters, by the way. Very comprehensive. This is a nice touch. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? And 5-0. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, is Katie Curran? Yes, there's Katie. Katie, you want to come up for a couple minutes? We're interviewing her for an appointment to the Green Technology Advisory Group. She's already attended some of our meetings as a listener, and she's showed herself to be a very innovative and knowledgeable person.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I've been a longtime resident of Westborough since 1998. I live on 26 Linda Street. My daughter is 25 and in Pittsburgh studying dentistry. My son is 20 at Purdue, and I also have a 10-year-old. I worked for many years in EMC, which is right next door. I work in high tech and in marketing, and I've just really decided recently that making sure that we have a green community, a green country is really important to me. My son really cares about the environment, but he feels that not a lot can be done. He feels we're going down a bad path and that we can't do anything, and I want to lead by example, and I want to show him that we can do what we can. Like, we're going to do what we can in Westborough, you know, to make Westborough a community that supports sustainability, and I'm really impressed with everything that Peter and team have already done. The fact that we have the plastic bag ban, and I just think I want to, you know, do my part in our community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion?
Yep, I'll make the motion. I move to appoint Katie Curtin-Mestre
Yep.
to the Green Technology Advisory Committee for an indefinite term.
Second.
I'm going to put Ian down.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. So Bruce.
I was going to, but they both beat me.
Yeah, okay, Bruce for the second. All right. As I said, wonderful credentials. Any other discussion or questions?
I actually, again, want to thank you. You know, it's funny that you're coming to this board today. The International Climate Change Panel just released its report, and it's frightening to read. So kudos for stepping up. I look forward to your enthusiasm.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
She really has been very interesting, just being there as an observer so far. Okay, now discussion vote on the Westborough Rotary Field of Flags. Mr. Horrigan. So nice to see you.
Yes, it's nice to see everybody. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Paul Horrigan. I'm the chairman of the Veterans Advisory Board, and I'm here representing the Veteran Service Officer and our committee of 9. As part of the history of this, you know, I did give you a handout here, but I'd like to just cover it briefly. Annually, we place flags on all the graves in the cemeteries in Westborough. And that's done before Memorial Day, and then after Veterans Day in November, we typically pick them up and dispose of them properly. We use the National Honor Society folks, some of the scouts, and some of the church groups to do this with us. We usually assign our own board members there to supervise it. This year we'd like to, and the reason I'm here is to brief you on a new project we'd like to embark upon, and we'd like to get the permission to do that. And that is, when we pick up the flags this year on November 17th, we'd like to take them and put them on the Rotary in a very orderly fashion to honor the veterans. There's 700 veterans in town and the deceased veterans. And so we'd like to place these on the Rotary for 1 week, and then the following week, the 24th, the weekend of Thanksgiving weekend, we'd pick them up and dispose of them. And we've got a large group of adults to monitor the children, or the youngsters. So we think it'll be a very positive thing for veterans and for the town. Milford did it last year, and it was very, very impressive, and the townspeople thought it was a great idea. That's how we really found out about it. We passed through there and saw their center all decked out. It was beautiful, so we decided to try to do that ourselves. So that's really why I'm here, to get permission to do that, and also to determine if we can, perhaps we may need some police help for an hour or two on that day. There is a race that morning, so we were originally going to do it at 9 o'clock, but we're going to postpone until 12 so that we don't interfere with the race, the turkey trot race.
Oh, okay.
So it seems very simple. There's no, we've got enough people involved that it'll be accomplished in a positive way.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to allow the Westborough Veterans Advisory Board to place flags in the Rotary on November 17th, 2018 through November 24th, 2018.
And a second?
Second?
Okay. Well, obviously, the Rotary is a great place to do that. It'll be really nice. And
Say
look, the Rotary is a great place to do that.
Absolutely, you're
And
right.
I'm sure that Christie can arrange with Chief Lowry for whatever kind of help
That'd be great. Thank
he
you,
deems is appropriate.
The only item, so I think it's a great idea, I love it, thank you for doing it. I know that the holiday stroll is the Sunday following Thanksgiving, and typically there's activity on the Rotary, depending upon where the stroll is this year. I don't, Mr. Story is part of, I believe, that committee, aren't you? Well, I just want to make sure that obviously the flags are picked up by that time, or that or that it's factored in that that area is of use, so I just, that we don't injure the flags.
Absolutely,
Okay.
it'll be picked up on the 24th.
Okay,
Sure.
great.
That's a very important item. Okay, all those in favor? Thanks again,
Great, thank
Paul.
you.
As
Thank you very
always,
much.
yes,
Thanks for your time.
you're very thoughtful. Okay, now, electronic permitting presentation.
Good evening, Fred Lenari, Building Commissioner in town. Mark's going to help set me up.
So we have our building commissioner, Fred Leonardo, and Mark Stockman with us.
I'm given 17 minutes, I hope to take less than that.
Well,
like that.
right now, we're just a couple minutes under target, which is good.
Does that mean you want me to slow down or speed
No.
up?
No,
keep it going.
Keep going.
With this group, you can't be sure, keep going.
And-
So
and the-
I'll just, a couple facts. So we did go online permitting as of September 4th. Any permits that come through the building department, including fire permits, at least 2 specific fire permits, fire sprinklers and fire alarms, are now being done electronically. So I'll just show you very quickly how that can be done.
So you said you started September 4th?
Yeah, September 4th.
Great.
We went 100% online. We were doing a version of that before that. I would like to thank all the staff in our department for their diligent and hard work on that. Specifically, Destiny Ashworth. She's been the champion behind this, and she spent a ton of time and effort in getting this thing going for us. So, if you go to the town website, and hopefully you've all been there once or twice, the easiest way to get there is you just click on the departments and go to the building department. You'll go to our site, and you'll see prominently in there, it says Permit Pro.
Right.
And a little access to blah, blah, blah. So you click on the link, it's a hyperlink. You can actually register, and that's what our contractors do. They'll actually create their own registration, so they'll get an email address and their own password, and they can use that any other town that might be using Permit Pro.
Okay.
Then you can see the different building permits that they can apply for on the left.
Nice.
Now, if you want to kind of creep through the site, you can do this without registering, albeit I suggest you all register, you don't have to. You'll notice here it says, click here for public access. So our constituents can look at this. They don't even have to be a town of Westborough resident, actually.
Okay.
We hope. There it goes. You'll see a bunch of permits. So these are permits that are presently been submitted that we may or may not have acted on. I'll go to just a couple addresses so you can kind of get a flavor. You'll see on the address search, you click that, click the little icon into there. I'm going to go to 2 particular ones. 4 Rosewood happens to be one that's on hold. You'll notice there's a drop down too. You have to go by the drop down because it's site specific.
Okay.
So once you get the address you're looking for, you can click that and search it. This takes, unfortunately, the longest. This is the slowest portion of that, so I've already thanked people, so I can't talk about that.
So far, it looks great.
Now you got to sing a song for us then.
That's right.
Yeah, you can.
If I had a hammer and you had a nail, do you want to, no.
I'm not going to start talking about Bob the Builder and all that. So you'll see, as you search any address in town, there's some old data in here, but basically the stuff that's more than a year old, it's been in there, but the department previously didn't really do a lot with it. So you'll notice that there's one application right now for that particular address. If you come down to this little icon, you click it, this will tell you where it stands. So you'll have, right now, thanks to all the departments working with us here, and Destiny went out to all the other departments, We used to send people out to both the town hall and then down to Oak Street and blah, blah, blah for the sign-offs. That's now started to be electronic, so nobody has to go anywhere. It's all done electronically. All the town staff has bought into that, so I want to thank them for all that. You can see the dates that they've signed off. This particular one of the inspectors that works with us,
Rejected it.
he rejected it, but you'll notice if you hover over the rejection sign, you can see why he rejected it. Sometimes they're very specific, sometimes it may just be a general no. There's some other things that you can't see in the background, but if you're logged in, there's some notepads that can enter stuff.
Sure.
So that's in there. So I just wanted to show you that, and I want to show you one other address, and then I'll be out of your hair. So if we go back, you just click the dashboard.
How about Cumberland Farm?
Cumberland Farm's in there, but I didn't want to show you.
Never mind, never mind.
But
They're in
actually,
there.
to Lee's point, both commercially and residential are in here.
That is absolutely correct.
So, that's great.
The
And
reason
it's a
I didn't-
requirement that they go through this?
Well, yes, but if people still refuse to use this, we have a kiosk at the Oak Street, and we'll have one in the new Forbes building, that they can do it right with us, so town staff is excellent with that. Again, Destiny's a major contributor to that, as Kristen is too, but, and Bob, all our staff help the applicants, so they can actually do it at the kiosk too.
But to Ian's point, it has to be done electronically, whether you're doing it from your personal convenience.
Well, so what happens is if somebody refuses to do that, we don't refuse the application, but we
Yeah.
take the paper copy and the individual inspectors put it in, or Destiny does.
Okay.
So we have to do the data entry
Okay.
if they refuse to.
Hopefully that's,
Everything will be here.
100%,
Yeah,
as of
okay.
September 4th.
hopefully that's few and far between.
That's correct. So because we're not the first town up in the line, a lot of contractors come in and they know this, whether they know our system specifically is immaterial.
Yep.
They're used to this process.
Yeah.
So there's not as much resistance as there was years ago. So the other, this is a commercial address I wanted to show you quickly. Again, then I'll get out of your face. 128. This is the Shell station that's being built on the corner of Lyman and
Yeah.
Route 9. So we'll look at that, because that actually has quite a few inspections that are already done. I'll just show you briefly. So anybody can see where it stands in the inspection services. If you're the contractor, you can log in and add information. The other thing I want to show you is that everything that's been submitted that's part of this, and that's why this is a good one to look at, it's all the documentation that went with the permit is also online, so you can see that individually. We're still trying to finesse that, so you'll see all these up here, these different headings. If it says other, and this is what we're still working out some of the bugs, we're adding lists to the other, so you can see, if you go to this side, you can see what that other is. So in this case, it was a mechanical compliance for energy, building analysis, plumbing plans, site plans, special permits. There was a ton of special permits attached to those, so those are all in there electronically to archive that, so anybody can see that. Again, we're building a better drop down, if you will, for some of the names of the plans. That's something we're still working through. So what I really want to show you here, you can see the approvals if you go all the way down. So you can see when the departments approved them, what dates they approved them. And then what I want to show you is that when the inspections were done, on this particular one, like I personally went out and did one of the inspections, but I had some comments, so I wrote the comments right in there. We're working, IT's working with our staff to get those comments so that we can email the comments directly to the applicant too. Because typically
Nice.
we write them down on the building card, but we're still kind of working through some of the kinks.
That's pretty good from just in September to now.
That's great.
Wow. Okay,
Are
any
So I
questions?
open it up to questions, that's it.
So, really well done. I'm really impressed. I guess my question, I admire the transparency in it. I love that. And I love the fact that you can see everything. But on the flip side, you know, if it does mean that someone can look inside any one of our homes and see the permits. And I'm just wondering about the privacy part of it.
There isn't, it's all public
Public record
information.
anyways.
It's public records. The building permits have never been a privacy issue.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for
That
that.
answers my, thank you, Fred.
Yeah, well, I mean, right.
Thank you.
It's easier for them to get it than coming in and requesting, but anytime anybody came into your office and requested it, it's public.
Right.
record.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And this way actually makes it easier, because people will occasionally say, my neighbor's doing something,
Yeah.
they can look it up
Sure.
themselves to see if there's been a building permit applied for.
Yeah.
But it's 100% all public record.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything
Yes.
else?
Well, I think,
It, just to understand what you're talking, so if something happened that, that a contractor had to send you more information or something like that, can they submit that then online to respond to something that was?
Absolutely, but it's only whoever applied for the actual permit.
Okay.
So you as somebody that's just viewing it, even if you register and whatnot, you can't alter somebody else's permit.
Right, but they can.
They can.
So the interaction,
right,
is
Right, so-
interactive.
right.
Their interaction is
If
interactive.
they work out of Shrewsbury, they
Great
can
English.
email it over, they don't have to drive
They have
here.
to drive over
to-
here, exactly.
Great.
So
Right,
that's
yeah,
great.
right, that's correct. So again, we're working through that. The hardest one to do is a building permit, because the plumbing, electrical are fairly straightforward. So the building, it's a matter of getting the people to enter the information. So sometimes we are still entering the information for them. It's mostly uploads of plans and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the more accustomed the people get to this, the more they start to enter it in, so the better it's getting for us as well.
So to that point, so plans, I mean, I'm used to seeing plans that are huge. Do those all get
All in there.
So the-
shrunk down, you can see them all? And
Well, we have the ability to replicate anything full size if I have to. We have a plotter,
Okay.
so we can replicate the plans.
So has this made it easier for the fire department, Chief Purcell?
Absolutely.
Great, because I know how much time, I have an idea how much time your staff spends on that, and huge maps and covering the whole floor and everything of a room, and,
Sure. So we've been using it my department's been using this for about a year, and it's,
oh, okay.
it's pretty seamless. I mean, I used it today. It's easy to leave, you can leave comments and see exactly where something might be held up.
Mhm.
That was a concern in the past about
Yep.
somewhere
Yes.
along the place, along the way, permits being held up in some
Yeah.
departments. Now it's all cataloged, so if there is something stalled, you can see exactly where and why.
So do you feel like it's actually speeding up that as well, as being easier?
The speeding up part's really not up to us, it's up to the general contractors
Oh,
that
okay.
submit stuff. As fast
Yep.
as they submit stuff, we get it done and get it back to them.
Okay.
So a lot of the slowdowns is not on the town. It's
Yeah.
on,
What's the transparency?
Great.
Now,
The transparency is
And then I can see, yeah.
and also, another good point is, people used to always, not always, but oftentimes they would say, the building commissioner said this, the fire chief said that.
Yeah,
Now it's all in one system, so there's no more of that, so it's a lot easier.
that's great.
It's a lot less stress.
That's wonderful. So are you getting positive comments from our contractors?
So far, so good.
That's
Yes,
great.
Most of them are, especially the ones that are pulling quick permits, they're much happier to do this, because they can, electricians and plumbers, even the builders for the quicker. So we've broken it down, so some of the minor repairs, windows, doors, roofs, it is expedited permit fashion, so they can apply. There's really no plans, so we've cut down the application form itself too. So they can do it all from their offices. So generally, their spouse or whoever that's doing their paperwork, they push it off to them, so they
Yeah,
don't come in and grumble at us. So yes, to answer your question succinctly, people are very happy.
that's great. Thank you. Any further questions or
Yes.
comments?
Yep. So question and two questions and a comment. So are municipal projects also captured here?
They are.
Okay. And does this sort of, for folks, the fire department, your team, electrical inspector, whomever, is it sort of like web-enabled? So like if you had an iPad, you could go out and like complete your inspection sort of while you're on the fly, or you have to come back to the office? Just more of a question.
Both, actually. I happen to love our iPad, so I try to do all the inspections on site. So
Sure.
as I sit in the car or truck,
Yep.
when I'm done with the inspection, I enter it right then.
Oh, great. Excellent.
So it's real time.
Excellent. And just comment, I mean, both from personal experience on both commercial and residential, I mean, having this, even as a homeowner, sort of sometimes you feel like, okay, where are we at in the permitting process? Have you submitted it? It's right here. So it's also check and balance for kind of consumer protection and just sort of allowing when you're the project manager to kind of stay on top of things. So great job.
Well, yeah, thank you. And actually, that's a great point. We oftentimes have customers come in and say, well, my contractor told me that I had a permit. Now they don't have to question it. They can just go online and figure it out.
Well, and for, home and resale, right? I'm buying a home to Syed's question about kind of privacy or public record. I mean, it's
Yeah,
great to have
yes.
it there, like, oh, when was that deck put on, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So that's great. Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
good.
Chief, did you have something else? You're standing up there.
Not to jump in on your presentation.
Can I shut this down?
Yes, thank you.
Man, are we that bad? You want to get out of here?
No, I don't want you to be.
No, we're
delayed
trying-
because-
No, we do want to get out of
Yeah,
here.
we're staying on time tonight.
I don't want another 11:30 meeting.
Okay,
Comments
Paul.
on Shelby's question, just sometimes we question why we're investing so much in the technology part of stuff. It's huge having the iPads to go portable, because now when we find something wrong, we can take a picture and attach it right to the report.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
there's no question about what we're talking about anymore. It's, there's your problem, here's a photo of it.
Yeah,
So
no,
it's
that's great.
really
Yep,
great.
you'll rarely hear me question technology, so that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just a comment from my days as the Selectmen's rep on the Economic Development Committee. This is something that's been
Oh, yeah.
big from when we did the Northeastern EdSat and whatever, and really pushing for electronic permitting. The town voted for it a number of years ago. I think you hit on that point that, we may have been trying to be early adopters. Some departments in town may not have been as open to the change here, but kudos to you and the rest of the town for doing it. I think from being business friendly, this to me is exactly what you want. It's the transparency, it's the ease, and what I like the best is you said, if they don't want to do it, they come in and you sit there at the kiosk and help them with it. To me, it's great work. It's great testament to what we want to do as a
Yes.
town, so thank you.
It was one of our goals, and now you've achieved it, so there you go.
Check that one off.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Yep. Now, Chief Laurie is away, although he's returning, I guess, but he wasn't able to come tonight. And Christie is going to present this very brief request.
Yep. So as the board is aware, we're working on getting our K-9 program up and running, and the chief has heard from several entities in town that are interested in helping support that program. So this is just a request to create a gift account for that program to be expended under the direction of the police chief.
So do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to establish a police K-9 gift fund to be expended under the direction of the police chief for the purposes of running the K-9 program.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All right. So I'm sure everybody's aware that we had to borrow K-9s from a couple other towns to help find the two young girls who left the school the other day. And they were successful. They were what actually found the children. Yeah. Much to everybody's relief. And of course, the police department, fire department, everybody was all out and they're on the red alert, and neighbors were calling in saying, I've seen the kid. So it all worked beautifully. But how nice it will be when we have our own K-9 here, and I'm so glad that the chief is being proactive in getting that put in place. Anything else?
Just a quick question. I presume that the police chief will sort of, in an annual report or something, sort of report on the gift fund and how much it's accrued and what have you,
Sure.
in whatever report?
Yeah, actually, there was, at the last meeting, there was a question about having statistics reported back to the board from the departments, and I have talked to both the chiefs, and we talked about the possibility of putting them on the agenda quarterly to give an update, and this could be part of their update.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea.
And again, I know it's going to take some time, but I think sort of, public awareness
Sure,
that's happening, that's great. Great.
Okay. All those in favor? We got 5-0. Okay.
Just a quick question, that, if I may.
Please.
Chrissy, this is all done through, it's under the direction of the police chief, but they would all go through our
Finance.
town accountant, and so,
Through the finance director, yeah.
finance director.
Yep.
So any questions at any time, that can be seen as well.
Right.
Okay, now we're going to vote to award the bid for Lyman Street Tennis and Pickleball Courts. Our Recreation Commission Chair and our Recreation Director, we've got Jen here. This is, so Earl's going to speak on behalf of Jen Kirkland.
I guess I can talk on it, Earl Story,
Okay.
Chairman of the Recreation Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Jennifer?
Sorry, I just had soccer, that's why I looked like it was just a bunch of three-year-olds.
That's what you're supposed to look like.
That's your
It's
job.
okay.
That's your job.
That's right.
No, we're here tonight for your blessing to award the bid to Vermont Tennis. They were the low bidder on the project, and we're all set to go. We will not break ground until the spring. So we're not going to be fighting the element as far as putting down pavement or painting or anything, but we'd like to be first on this list in the spring, so if we could officially give it to them.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for the tennis and pickleball court construction at the Lyman Street Recreation Area to Vermont Recreational Servicing and Fencing Incorporated in the amount of $103,789 and to authorize the interim town manager to sign the contract.
Second, oh,
Okay, Shelby?
whatever.
Yeah, no, I was just asking for.
Sorry, yeah, yeah.
Okay, you've made wonderful progress on this, right from the beginning, getting the site prepared and, the trees cut down, site prepared, socializing that whole issue, because I know there's a little bit of controversy about it, but you've done a great job, and I know you'll finish it in a great manner. So, any
Just
other
a-
discussion?
Yeah, just a question. So I presume they'll honor the bid. It's probably in the documentation, which I read, but I can't remember if they said they'll honor it for spring
Yes,
work.
I have talked to them, and they're, no
Yep.
problem. Just
Okay.
wait for the official word.
Great.
And they like the idea that we're not trying to slip it in this year.
Yep.
We do it in the spring.
Great.
So I I don't know pickleball, but can you also play tennis on this court?
Yes,
Yes.
there's one tennis court and 2 pickleball courts.
Okay.
That's what it'll be.
And I know that some of the money that's coming from this was from the parking, so we have enough money. I know there was money.
There was money left over
From
from the
the-
parking lots, and at town meeting, we reassigned that. I think it was $52,000 or $53,000, if I'm not mistaken, extra money that we had from there because we were able to do a lot.
And so this is 100,000, so do you need any extra, or you're good?
No, we will take that from our revolving account.
Oh, okay.
Big difference.
And then the other, just 2 other things. There were a couple of references. Have we checked their references? I assume we...
They did
Go ahead.
they've done work for us before.
Oh, perfect.
They did the West Street
Yeah.
courts over for us.
Oh, okay.
We were very happy with that.
And then the last thing, Christie, there was...
And aren't they also on the state bid? The state has checked them out? Yeah, so there's always good vetting on that.
And, I'm sorry, but there was, there was that tractor trailer. Has that ruined their thing at all? There was a tractor trailer parked there. I don't know if it ruined
Yeah.
their court.
Earl, you and I talked about this on Friday. So
I didn't hear that.
the tractor trailer that was parked on the...
In the parking lot.
On the pickleball court. So there was no damage.
Okay.
The police were called, they have
Okay.
the owner's information, but there was no damage to be reported.
They actually parked on the
That's why I was
construction
worried.
site?
Yeah.
The same one that used to be parking in the parking
They're
lot?
going to use the parking lot.
Yeah.
To park in
Yeah.
a pickleball court is going to be, I mean, the tennis
No, no,
court is...
no,
I
but-
think someone was parked illegally on the blacktop.
Oh, yeah, there was a tractor trailer down there.
Right.
But it didn't even make marks in it.
Oh,
That's how
good.
good it was. you know.
That's
It's
what I
gone
was...
through 2 winters now, so it's not going anywhere. you
Yeah.
know. I mean, it's very, very stable. right?
Okay.
So just a quick comment, being that I just got back from celebrating some decade birthdays with some friends, and pickleball was the rage of the conversation. So we're all golfers, but it was, and these are folks from various towns, no one else lives here in Westborough, and they cannot find pickleball time in their various towns, and leagues are cropping up. So I really think that, sort of in the spirit of some of the strategic planning discussions we talked about, of kind of the vision of Westborough, this really is, it really is forward-thinking for us to be investing. So I applaud the effort.
These are going to be real regulations.
Yep.
Not just pickleball.
Can't wait for the
It's not
tournament.
going to be double lined like West Street. We
Yep.
had West Street double line. It's a little confusing.
Yeah,
sure.
And then that and the pickleball is a little bit lower
Yep.
too, so
Yep.
it's different.
It's
So
very
these will be
exciting.
Separate courts altogether for them.
Well, this has been, we've had active participants in pickleball
Oh,
in town
yeah.
here, using the Forbes gym, they were using,
Yeah.
so it's, yeah.
Yeah, we've
So
got
that's
a
great.
big group that's come to our meetings.
So we got
Might win the
multi-generational.
Olympics coming out of Westborough.
You bet.
Hey, all right. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Have to go
Exciting.
learn how to play pickleball.
That's right. We'll have our
Okay.
own team.
Discussion vote on changes to library position. Christy Williams?
Sure. So Maureen Ambrosino is also here if you have additional questions, but this is a request to update the classification plan. The library currently has a position of 19 hours for a technical services assistant. This position was recently vacated, and when the library director evaluated their needs, she felt that they could actually just increase a current 20-hour position, which is already benefited, to, it says 30 in your packet, but she's actually looking to have it go to 31 hours per week. And so we would be able to meet the needs that we were already meeting and eliminate a position.
Okay, do I have a motion
I'll make that motion.
to amend the classification?
Yes.
Okay,
I move to amend the classification plan to remove the technical services assistant position and to increase the 20-hour library assistant position to 31 hours per week.
okay.
Second.
It's funny, Shelby, it is important to read it because the people in the audience may not know if we don't read the whole motion, so that's good.
Did I do a good job?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion?
So, two things. First, so this is fine, it becomes a wash, correct me if I'm right, financially?
Yeah, so they would use the money that they currently have budgeted for that position to pay for the increase.
Okay. And while Maureen is here, I want to commend her for the open house that they had, I believe, last month, which was organized by the library staff, and there was a huge turnout from the town to attend that. That was really well done, so keep up the good work.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okey-dokey. You're just doing a good job. Okay, now, we have Don Byrne here to vote to accept and sign a trail easement and vote to sign a paper of support. Letter of support, I'm not sure we had the letter of support. I didn't see it beforehand, so I'm not sure if people want to vote on it if they hadn't seen it.
So we just got it this afternoon.
It wasn't in our packet, so. So does everybody have a copy of it on their, in front of them? Nope. Okay, nobody has one. So,
It's coming.
okay. Well, Don, certainly start on your issue of signing the grant of trail easements.
This is we're asking for a trail easement, which was already approved at a town meeting. This is actually the easement we need to do the recreational trails grant that we recently accepted, and which we're taking to town meeting, an article to do the matching funds. If we don't do the matching funds, of course, we lose the grant and also lose the ability for the town to apply for grants in similar areas such as that or complete streets for about 5 years. So this was an important easement to get. We were using the Westborough Community Land Trust had previously gotten an easement for that area, so we were covered so we could apply for the grant. But fortunately, the building owner is very friendly and is excited about us building the trail. In fact, wants to connect. They own a number of other buildings on Otis, and they want to connect all those buildings to the trail to provide services for their people, and they believe it will actually increase their property values for those buildings, which I'm sure we would not object at all if they get more tenants and up our tax base a little. So this is all part of an effort to, as I say, to both do both this and the grant are involved with the recreational trails grant to try to help fund it. The grant would be for part of the fund, the $56,000 that we're asking for at town meeting, which the state recommended you ask for all, but even if you are doing some with volunteers or other matching funds. So this would be, the grant would, if we get it, would be $10,000 toward off of the 56. We would use their money instead of the town funds.
Okay, so we have two things that we'd like a motion on. I just want to make sure I understand. One is to approve the easement agreements. The other is to sign the letter of support for the People for Bikes grant application, and that's
Yes.
for the $10,000 grant?
Right, it's a $10,000 grant. It's a two-phase grant. We've already been approved to phase one.
Okay.
This is now phase two, where we have to provide more details.
Okay. Because we didn't get a chance to read this before, Bruce, would you like to say anything about why it's important to sign that tonight, even though we didn't have any sort of adequate notification, really?
Well,
You're familiar with this, I assume, because your signature's on it already?
It is on it already, yeah, right.
To just help us to say why we should sort of break protocol, because usually we don't sign something if we haven't seen it ahead of time, ahead of chance.
Well, yeah, because we learned of this relatively recently, and as in very recently. And considering that we're going to town meeting asking for $56,000, it would be awfully nice to bolster our case by saying that $10,000 of that could be paid for or could be applied toward this, toward the matching funds that we have to come up with in order to accept the grant.
Mhm.
And it's a huge, the grant is a huge benefit to us. It almost halves the cost of what we would need to do to put a bridge over a section of the Assabet River,
Mhm.
which is adjacent to the water treatment plant. And then would allow us to do exactly what Don said, to pursue connecting with other properties and expand the breadth of the multi-use trail. So, non-motorized trail
Yeah.
is what this
That's
is.
for walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I'll mention something in.
It'll actually be the first handicap accessible trail in town.
That's wonderful.
So-
So baby carriages could go on it too then?
Baby carriages, people in wheelchairs, it would fully be federally ADA compliant, the whole.
Okay.
And one of the things I should point out is yes, this is a $10,000 grant where Bruce has already been working diligently to get paving contractors and other people, so that $56,000 that we're asking for at town meeting, while we're asking for the full amount because that's what the state recommends you do, we really don't expect to be spending anywhere near the $56,000 out of the funds that we asked for, and the rest would return to the town coffers.
Because you think you're going to get some contractors to do pro bono for you?
Some contractors, and also some of the work is going to be volunteer work, hopefully, and the state pays $29.67 an hour for even a Boy Scout going out and dragging brush up to the thing, and I can get a lot of Boy Scouts.
That's more than we pay the Boy Scouts.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Boy Scouts don't actually get the money.
No,
there's
We
no
get credit
money.
for
But you get to apply it against your grant. I just wanted to make, I knew that.
There's
but
no
I
money,
didn't
it's just that
declare
we would get, the
Yeah.
town would get a credit
Yeah.
for every hour that they do.
it. Right, it's the in-kind work,
Yes.
so to speak. Okay. So thank you for helping with that, Bruce. Do I have a recommendation, a motion, rather?
Can I just make a comment that
Please.
there were a couple just sort of editorial corrections in the final easement that you'll be signing, but it didn't change the content at all, and it was submitted to town council for their review.
Okay, thank you. So do I have a motion?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to approve the easement agreement as authorized by Article 23 of the October 17th, 2016 special town meeting, accepting all rights and obligations set forth in the attached trail easement, and further to sign a letter of support for the People for Bikes grant application.
Okay. Now, I would have asked you if you had any comments at this
sorry.
point, Christie. I would have forgotten you. Any discussion or questions?
We need a second?
Second.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear. We didn't get a second. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, have you seen
Yes.
the letter of the grant?
I've seen the letter, yeah.
Have you read it? I'm just,
Yeah.
we're about,
But I just read it here. That's why I was saying that we didn't have a chance to see it ahead of time. And I was asking to sort of break protocol and see if we are willing to sign it anyway. And that's why I asked Bruce to explain the situation.
Yeah, we do apologize. We found out very late that we needed one from the Board of Selectmen by the granting authority. And we've been scrambling to get all the letters put together so we can get the grant in this week.
I think the main point is, do we want to support you asking for $10,000 that the town doesn't have to spend because you get it as a grant? That's the
Right,
main point?
that's the-
Okay,
That's the gist.
all right. And it's part of the obligation of the town to match the grant we've already gotten, to match the second half. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anybody got any other questions? All right, all those in favor? We have 4, and is that an abstention or?
abstention.
Okay.
So not opposed, it's abstention.
Abstention, yeah.
Okay, so we're all set with that, and I guess, I don't need to sign it in front of Wendy, I can sign it anytime, right?
The letter.
Do you want it back because you're going to send it?
We can, if I can get them back, we will get we're having a meeting with the people, the B-Prep people, on connecting their trails shortly here, and we'll get them to sign it,
Here you go.
and the letter is going this week.
Okay, moving right along, we have a request to sign November election warrant and update on early voting from our town clerk.
Excuse me, Lee, if we could just get a copy of it, as, I know we usually get correspondence, but if we can
Yeah.
get a copy of the letter, just so we have it, that would be great.
Yeah, it does, it does.
The letter does not, the easement does.
The easement does.
The easement does.
Yes, the easement does.
Yeah.
Not the letter.
I should comment that I'll be back again, because there's about another 6 easements that are in the pipeline that should be showing up
Right.
in the next couple months.
Yep, you sort of alerted us to that the last time you were here. Okay,
So we'll get the pattern down better next time.
very good, thank you. So Wendy, do you need this? Do you need to be here while we sign this one?
I just need to be in the room.
Okay,
I know you do.
all right, we'll sign this.
And is that to be notarized?
It is, yeah, there's a notary at the bottom.
I got more for you to sign, so.
Sorry.
What are those? Oh, this is warrant.
Is there multiple copies in the back? or-
No, that's just.
Just-
that's the easement, yeah.
Okay, Wendy.
I just gave the state warrant to Bruce, and so if you guys, while I'm talking, you could just sign it. That's for the election in November. And I also wanted to just talk a little bit about the early voting that's coming up. And I just wanted you to be aware of the process that we'll be using for early voting for the state election. I apologize for not mentioning that I was going to use these new things, poll pads, at the primary. And I thought it was going to be a rather small election. It kind of started off that way, and I thought, oh, good time to just test them out and see how they go.
Would you say the name of that again, because not everybody's probably aware of that?
Poll pads.
Yeah, poll pad.
And LHS is a company that provides them. So they're very popular. Back at the presidential election, most of the cities use them just to test. They haven't been approved by the state yet, but you're allowed to test them in conjunction with a paper check-in list. So we thought that would be a good idea. So everybody kind of get familiarized with them, and because they're coming. That is going to be what we're going to be doing down the road. I'm sure for 2020, those will be used. So I just wanted you to know what the process is. It requires, early voting was approved back for the 2016 presidential election. And so it's required for every state and federal election, 11 days before an election. However, it's not allowed in primaries or the town elections right now. The law requires specific posting requirements and early voting hours. So I have them all posted on our website, the town calendar, and in the town hall. October 19th, I'm going to send out an e-alert to all of those people that have signed up for that alert through our system. And then the TNG is running an ad for all of Worcester County, and they did that back at the presidential too. So that'll have our hours. And so I think, it's been well communicated. I've sent EV early voting posters to the senior living facilities in town too to hang up, so they're all familiar with what's going to happen. Starting Monday, October 22nd is when early voting will start up here in Memorial Hall, and it'll run through November 2nd. We are open Saturday on that first weekend, but not the second weekend. This past state primary in September, I tested the poll books, and we used it with the paper list. The official voter list is the paper list still, because the state hasn't approved them. This change, it's going to happen. It'll probably happen by the presidential. So I'm not trying out anything different. I didn't want anyone to think that, we were doing something that no one else is doing. It was just I feel bad that I didn't mention it to you guys, that we were doing it. But this change from paper to electronic, I think it's just, it's faster, it's more efficient, it's really, they're doing it to move the lines along. Most of the people, that's the reasons with that, I think they've started it, is people complained that the lines were too long. That's why they didn't go and vote. So now they're trying to make it a little easier, and it is easier. However, I'm doing it with, in conjunction with paper, so that's a little slow, because you're checking in twice. You've got to do the paper and you've got to do the poll pads. Also, you're allowed to use an ID. Oh, thank you. the poll pad. It has a little slot in the back where you could stick your Mass ID or license in the back. It's a voluntary process. People, we don't ask them to provide the ID, but they can just hand us their license if they want to. And we can put a sign up that says you can volunteer your ID. I did do it for this last election. I guess the sign wasn't very clear, so I had 3 people out of 2,000 complain, and they called me, and they called the Secretary of State's office too.
And they
just
called
to
me.
say- And they called you too? Oh, okay.
And complained that we were asking for ID as
They
opposed to
said they were
understanding it was
asking-
volunteer.
Yeah, that it wasn't. So I'll make it clear
Sure.
that it's voluntary.
Yep.
The wait lines, I think once the paper's gone, it's going to be much faster. And if people want to give their IDs, it does go that much faster. I will say people have been giving them to us for years, even without the whole thing, you know. it
Wendy,
just-
I may have missed the, what's the transition timeline when we're going to not be duplicating paper and electronic?
Well, they told us that we were going to have it for this November election, and for some reason, the state did not approve the poll pads for use alone without the paper.
Okay.
So we can do it with the paper. I've decided that I'm not going to do it because it does slow it down, and I think this is going to be a really busy election.
So you're just going to use paper?
So I'm just going to use the paper.
And that
Oh,
was,
okay,
that
so
was
we're
the
just using
reassurance that I
paper.
wanted to make sure was on
Okay.
television. Because some people have concerns that nationally anyway, and perhaps in communities that have a different demographics, that some people are turned off by having to use their ID. And even if it isn't asked for, if they're in a polling place and they see people handing their IDs over, sometimes people will turn around and leave. So I think we need to sort of socialize this well ahead of time, and I'm glad that you're waiting till the next election.
Yeah.
Because we certainly don't want to do anything that dissuades voters.
Right.
And there are people that, seniors are a classic example, who no longer have sort of that official form of ID because they're not driving as a standard use and they don't have a passport or what have you.
Right.
And I know
we
there are
always
other
take, if you saw the poll pad, we always take a name. I mean, if they just come up and
No,
tell
no,
us
no,
their name.
I know folks have been, the poll workers have been great about it, but I do think, I agree with Lee, that can just be sort of like, am I supposed to be doing something? And rather than asking the question, maybe feeling like I'll just turn around and walk out. So I would never want that to be the
Or
case.
people leave it in the car and they don't want to go back to the car and back, especially
Right.
if they have a little trouble walking. There's a bunch of things.
Yeah, no, we'll make it clear that it's a voluntary, if you want to show your ID, fine. If you don't, that's fine too.
You just say your name and address, and then
yeah.
you put it in the poll pad, whatever.
Yep, and we just plug it in.
Thank you.
What's the other thing? So with the early voting, this is our state for us, but with the early voting, we are allowed to use the poll pads without paper because it's early voting. It's not,
Oh,
they're
okay.
not casting their ballot. So I am going to use it for that, just again, to kind of get that practice in, so people
Sure.
are familiar with it and they feel confident that we're not doing anything. And yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it's going to happen whether I like it or not. It's just that is going to happen. And I don't know that it's anything about the ID. It's just about moving it along. And the poll pad is fast, I will say. You're not flipping through pages
Right.
and
Right.
finding the wrong name. And so it's more accurate too. So saying all that, well, I just said I'm not going to use them on November 6th because we can't use it alone.
Okay.
So we already signed the November election warrant. We didn't actually have to vote on it. We signed it, and you're all set?
Yep, you signed the warrant? Okay.
Okay.
And I think that's it. So if you have
So-
any questions?
Thank you very much.
No, but can I just add that Wendy do you want to speak to helping folks at the polls or with
Oh,
Rotary?
yes. Oh, yeah, sure. You can,
So during the November 16 election, the Rotary Club helped with a little initiative called Roll to the Polls. So we had folks at the entrance to the polls, as well as some golf carts that were donated or loaned to us from the pro at Westborough Country Club, Jack. And we help folks sort of navigate from the parking lot to the entrance. And we also had wheelchairs to help them either kind of wait in lines, although they were actually, the lines moved quickly, or just to help them get downstairs because it is a bit of a walk. So Wendy reached out to us again, and the Rotary Club will be happy to do that. We'll have folks there in the morning, basically from the time the polls open until about 8:30, and then there's a little bit of a lull. We've coordinated that with Wendy, and then we'll be back on site for the evening hours to help folks. So we'll have some golf carts, and in the morning we'll have some coffee to, make folks smile as they walk in, and it'll be great. So appreciate you. We're happy to help, and it's a really fun day.
You just like driving the golf carts, I know. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Wendy.
Can I just a question?
Yes.
And I should know this, but are schools open on the 6th? Or?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So we'll have to coordinate and
Yeah, it'll.
be careful with the golf. Just thinking when you said golf carts, and make
Yeah.
sure that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll use the whole front section again, and the first 2 rows maybe, if we can. And,
Okay.
but I think with the early voting, it does cut back on it. Like the presidential, we had 4,200 people vote ahead of time.
I'm voting
So I
early.
think, and this isn't as big as a presidential, so I think more people are going to early vote, and it might be just quieter at the polls.
I believe there was an article in the Globe this weekend about the, I'll use my own word, unanticipated cost of early voting and what that's costing
Yes.
cities and
Huge.
towns. So,
Yeah, it is. It's a
interesting. I
big
mean,
cost
again,
to get
benefit, but
people
it
to
is a
work.
cost. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
unfunded mandate.
It
There
is.
you go.
okay,
Thank
thanks
you.
very much, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
And to all your crew. Now we have Mr. Durrett here for a Spur House update and board comments on the RFP if they have any.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Steve Durrett, 23 Mill Road. You've seen my memo that basically gave a project update to where we are with the Spur House Committee, as well as a list of things and conditions within the Spur House. Mr. Stewart has provided a memo, which I'm sure you have a copy of as well, responding to the list of things that needed to be done in the building, which aren't generally physical. They're more of emptying the space, removing certain items that are in there that don't belong there, and so on. There are a couple of points in his discussion that I'd like to speak to. The first one is his comment about the porch, suggesting that we just leave it alone and let it fall down. My interest in asking not to have a trampoline, but a tarpaulin, a tarpaulin over that roof, so that in fact we'd keep water from getting into the major part of the structure. Obviously, if we create water in the walls, ruins the plaster and can do other damage. So the suggestion is to put a tarp over the roof and nail it to the facade, so that in fact we don't make things worse than what they are. So that would be the major comment I have on his list of things. And the other major comment is simply suggesting that the Spur House Committee pay for all these services. I'll remind the Board of Selectmen that in fact it is a town building. The maintenance of the building is the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen. And in fact, the fact that it's in the condition that it's in is pretty bad. So those things that are suggested in his response to them, I would say are the responsibility of the town to pay for and to execute.
Yeah.
So other than that, I agree with everything he's got in here, because obviously we need to deal with each one of those.
Right.
And generally, I think on the schedule, as far as the stored documents that are in there, the program should move along, because I'm hopeful, based on the discussion tonight, that probably within a month and a half, we'll be able to put the thing out to bid. And, the kind of junk in the basement, some of the appliances that are in there are no longer useful, and certainly the stored documents in there would be detrimental to somebody's appearance and walkthrough, looking at this thing and saying, well, it's just a junkyard.
Right.
So to the extent that we can remove these things, in a reasonable amount of time before we put it out to bid, I think that would be a good response. Generally, my interest in being here tonight is to move along the process, which at this point, as you know, we have the A&R plan, which allows the project to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. At this stage of the game, we need to make an application as the town to our Zoning Board of Appeals. And the Spur House Committee knows from previous discussions that we probably need legal counsel to prepare this application and support the committee going forward before the ZBA. As you know from the discussion in the memo that Christie and I have been talking about, the who, what, and where, and how to get that done. And Christie's suggestion was to make that as a request for tonight, which is that you authorize her to allow us to work on behalf of the town to move this whole thing forward, and with her oversight as we go forward as a committee to discuss the application with council, to review the RFP with council, to support council and council's argument that will be presented to the ZBA, because in all cases, we hope this will be a positive outcome for the town and return significant amount of revenue to the town in terms of the sale, as well as continuing it as a taxable property for the town, which based on certain sales in the town would be a significant benefit to the tax rolls of the town as well. So I did see that Bruce had one comment in regards to the RFP, which had to do with the fee of $1 relative to the Historical Commission's needs. We're aware of his comment. The reason why it was $1 just to have that phrase in there, because we don't know exactly what the state's Historical Commission is going to ask for. It's easy to take it out, but it wouldn't be so easy to put it back in if a potential buyer didn't see that line in there in the first place.
Okay, and council will probably tell us what we need for that.
Yeah, my question wasn't the dollar. I'll give you the dollar.
Well, I know, actually, the dollar comes to the town.
Yeah, okay.
It's
but it
to
was
the town.
But
and
the
it allows
CPA,
the process.
how does the CPA apply? We're not part of the CPA yet. Community Preservation Act.
That is an acronym. I can't tell you what it's for, but it's an acronym.
That's not the Community Preservation Act.
Yeah.
Oh, it said CPA.
does say
It said
that.
Community
Yeah.
Preservation Act in there.
I think you were saying that we're not part of it,
We
so how
are
can...
never authorized it.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Private, yeah.
But if the state requires it, the State Historical Commission requires it, it's in there. If
Paid
they
by the
don't, then
town.
we can take it out.
Oh, okay.
So, and that RFP, of course, hasn't been reviewed by council yet.
Great.
And that's the other piece of what we're asking for.
Okay.
It's a very long RFP. So
Well,
at one of our...
just to comment on that, it's interesting that the templates that the state has, that's the best one, by the way. That came from Sunderland.
Okay. So at a prior meeting, we did actually vote, when Jim was still here, to allow you to have access to council. So we don't need to re-vote it, but we can reiterate that we did vote it once before. It was in our minutes and everything. And beyond that, perhaps to add to help with the ZBA application, because perhaps that wasn't apparent, but access to council for whatever you needed was what we said. And Christy, you're arranging that
Yes,
as
and
we go
I have
ahead.
that. I do have that for you. So I had asked Steve to come before you just to give you an update and then just to sort of get consensus from the board that we're all on the same page.
Right.
So,
Which is great.
I appreciate that, and the sensitivity around that, Christy. Then the key to the house you've already gotten. If anybody else had comments on the RFP, you should have given them to him. I thought, Jim, I want to thank you very much for how thoroughly you went through the list of things. I'm not sure quite how to resolve this thing about the tarp. I would err on conservation and just say put the tarp up. I mean, even if you're not sure it's going to be effective, Jim.
Well, it has been a request by the couple of members on the committee to do
Yeah.
that.
What do you think about that, Christy and Jim? And then the board?
As far as the porch go and the tarp, I went over and I took some pictures. The porch is pretty well all rotted off the building, and my concern is, number one of my men or somebody having to get onto that roof to put the tarp up. I mean, for all I know, it could come down. I just think in the condition that it's in, it'll have to be removed by whoever purchases the home. That why should the town absorb the cost if I have to pay a contractor to go and do it, or if one of my men, just for a safety issue, to climb up on that roof.
Jim, could you go through the window? I mean,
Could, but I'll just mention that you have a lull over here at the Forbes building, which is one of those devices that you stand like the head in front of that.
Oh, yeah.
Those belong to the contractor.
I understand.
I can't just go over and use a lull.
Right.
I don't know, it was a question, I mean, like, could you, you know, I mean, because I fully appreciate we don't need anyone up on this kind of construct.
Yeah. I wonder if it would be helpful if Fred took a look at it and gave us some advice. He is our building
Well,
commissioner.
yeah, I don't disagree with Jim that it's in tough shape,
Yeah,
okay? But I do believe that it would be better to keep the water out of the face of the building than just let it continue.
yeah.
And whatever means or method that could be done. I don't disagree with Shelby that we may be able to spread it out from the windows and, you know, nail it to the
Yep.
facade with a cleat and be done.
Right.
So, I definitely don't think anybody should really be on that roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff to see.
Do you think it would be helpful to have Fred weigh in on this?
Well, I think, but I mean, the real story.
I think we both agree that it is a unsafe condition.
Thing is, if it's gonna fall
But
down,
what-
the snow will take it down.
Right.
Whether the tarp is on it or not. But
Well, and the
certainly
weight of the snow on the tarp may take it down too,
Yeah,
you know.
We still have enough roof to support the snow until it comes down.
No, I know, I'm just saying, it could,
But to tarp or not to tarp is the question.
I mean,
While Jim is here and Mr. Duran, were there any other significant, so I thank you again, both of you, and the committee and you for all the hard work, and this memo was spectacular. Jim, since you're here, are there any other comments or concerns from your end that you'd like to share with the board?
No, I think everything was, you know, a lot of the stuff was on the list. I had one of my gentlemen over there today taking care of it. The ladder's been removed. We've already blocked off the attic. That was blocked off before. It just had a big tear in it, so we took it down. It's already been blocked back off. We had to purchase a whole roll of plastic, so we ended up doing windows also in the building, because just to try to keep, you know, as much of the heat in as we can. It can be very costly to heat that for the
Yeah.
winter. The only thing that, you know, I'd like to comment on is just the fact that when my budget was written, there wasn't any money to put into the Spur House.
Sure.
So, and I've already absorbed some costs, you know, of this process that's going on, and I just don't know, you know, all these little things add up, and not just in money, but in time from my very small staff, and it can be a lot. So I just don't know how, you know, how much more that I can afford to keep taking out of my budget to pay for a house that, hopefully, well, I thought it was going to be a parking lot, but apparently that's not going to happen.
That's not what we hope.
right.
Well, how about a compromise?
Mhm.
That is that Jim gets the quotes that he was talking about, we find out what the magnitude of those are.
I have them, Steve.
And so
He just got them this afternoon.
if it fits within the amount of money that we have left, fine. And if we need more, that in fact, with the Board of Selectmen support and Jim's support, we go to the Finance Committee and ask for whatever we need.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we could see what those quotes are, look at them, because some of them, I mean, I think, if I could just comment later, I think, I'd like to see if we can put a tarp up there. I think that's fair. I don't want anybody on there, but if we could get something to satisfy that, tack it on there.
Safely, yeah.
And right this minute, we have a lull in the middle of the high school, so perhaps the high school could figure out how to get it over.
But we can figure, I think that makes sense. I think the light bulbs, we should pay for that as a town. But then the removal service, I'd like to see the quotes.
If you don't mind, it was, I used Good as Gone in town, local business in town. He called me this afternoon, I had sent him an email this morning saying, boy, I'd like to have that in writing so I can bring it to the meeting tonight. He was busy today, he called me later in the afternoon and said, Jim, I'll give you the prices and I'll drop it off to you later on. It was $1,200 to remove everything in the building. Everything in the basement, the appliances, everything except for the bookcase, and there's a war memorial that's down there. Before it was put on granite, I guess it used to be on plywood.
It actually came out of what was there in front of Forbes before we built the stone.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was the plaques that were in there.
So
So
that's in the basement. So it was $1,200 to remove everything except for those two items and the piano.
Piano.
Yeah, there's an old player piano in there that
That's
apparently
nice.
they couldn't even give it away when they were
Yeah.
trying to empty out the house, but that there was an additional $400.
Yeah, those are hard to get rid of.
Just take a
It
sledgehammer
actually
to
almost
it.
been two. When we were in there, somebody was playing, so.
Well, anybody wants to play the piano, step ahead.
Come and get it.
Also, I understand that the bookcase is glass, has glass doors, and actually might be a nice oak bookcase if somebody wants it.
Well, so I talked to Maureen Ambrosino this afternoon, and we're going to head over there tomorrow, I think, to take a look and see if it's something that they could use in the library.
And also, there were some photographs that we thought our archivists might like, or the Historical Society. So you're going to coordinate those people looking at it? Thank you. Thank you very much.
So back to the appliances, I know there's no gas going there now. Are the appliances still good, or are they junk appliances?
Well, I used to have them in my apartment in Boston when I was in school, they're no worse than that. So they probably actually work.
That was when?
Well, I guess the question is, I think...
Do they have value? They probably...
Well, their value, do you take them out, or do you leave them there and then let the person purchasing decide if they want to...
Yes, it's going to cost a lot of money to put gas back in the building, because where the meters were against the forks. And the pipes went underneath the driveway. So the gas cord is gone, it would have to be a new connection.
I think the cleaner it is, the better it presents, and anyone coming in there is not going to want to do demolition around appliances or anything of...
You're talking about sinks and toilets and things like that?
No,
like...
just gas appliances, like a stove.
Okay.
There's a couple other things.
Things that are readily movable.
2 stoves and 2 refrigerators.
Okay, that type.
Let's get them out. One of them is probably from the 1950s. The one upstairs that was in the apartment is a little newer. And there was a price tag on the refrigerator downstairs. It says works and it says $25. Well, apparently it didn't sell. So as far as having a value,
it may be the guy that takes it, but from my point of view, I don't think so.
no. Right, I think if we're going to have goods going come in there, we should probably have him remove
Take everything.
the appliances.
Okay. I mean, great, sounds good.
So I would support that. I mean, initially I was going to say that it is a town-owned building. The town has, made the determination to sell it. Everything should come out of some sort of town bucket. Having said that, I mean, I feel like the repairs and any necessary sort of general maintenance of it should be a town responsibility. I think it would be fair to sort of say, preparing it for sale in terms of the cleanup, it would be reasonable that would come out of the Spur House Committee as a compromise.
Sure, out of the 5,000.
I think Steve's comment about, let's look at, see what we have, see the cost, figure it out, and if we have to go to Finance Committee, because I think, Jim, I totally understand, this is money that wasn't budgeted, so you're taking this away from something else.
And I absorbed the cost of the survey that was done on the property and everything like that out of my budget, and it was a good hit at this point. I mean, right now it's fine, but come May, there might be an issue, so I tend to want to keep costs down.
I appreciate that.
No,
we
appreciate it. I think it was necessary, so thanks for taking that because it needed to be done.
Yeah, my only comment on the use of the money, the plan for the 5,000 was whatever the cost for organizing the sale, doing advertising and all that stuff, which still is to be done. And based on, say, Jim's guesstimate of $2,000 to clean it out and do all that stuff, that would leave us, roughly $2,500 to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only request is if we get to the point and we have advertising bills that are larger than that, clearly we're going to have to come back to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee and ask to cover those costs.
Okay.
And so what about, I want to make sure that we get costs covered. So what about if Jim still has those costs and he runs out with that? Do we need to appropriate money for Springtown meeting, or wait to see how everything goes?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, you're in the budget year, whatever money he has, he either expends or he doesn't expend. And if he gets too close, then his choice would be to go to the Finance Committee, just like
The Finance Committee, or at the end of the year, we can do a transfer from another line.
We don't
We can't
necessarily
appropriate
know that they would
ourselves.
give us either of it, but, it is the way we do it within the budget.
I think the better we all work together and resolve this, then we have appropriate counsel, and it seems like everything's moving in the right direction. Let's
we're all
keep it going. We're all the same. So I think we're all on the same page. Let's support it. Let's get it going.
My only
You can
one
ask
request would be that the board would see any edits to the RFP after council has reviewed it before. That's all.
I don't see any reason why you wouldn't see them before I do, so.
Okay.
Can I just one comment? It's not a concern with the RFP, but just the comment, and I'm sure you know this because we went through this with Nathan Fisher, is the facade.
Yes. Yeah,
And I know that came from the committee, and I fully support the Nathan Fish House, although it took us a long time to sell the Nathan Fish House because of the restrictions put it on that, but I'm sure that that's a discussion you had and are going with.
Yeah,
So it's just a
actually,
comment, not a...
That whole story, in terms of the Historical Commission activity, if you will, within the RFP, was really designed around the comments that you made perhaps a year ago, Ian, which simply was, how do we know that that building will continue to look like it is?
Right.
How do we know that somebody won't come in and tear down the facade and rebuild something totally different?
Yep.
You know, like one of my favorite architects does. And it's in there for that reason, to protect the town from it being something different. Within the way the RFP is written with the historical restriction is that it's appealable to the Historic Society to make any changes that would be necessary to allow the person to build what they need to build. Obviously, the intent is to keep the facade the way it is.
I'm trying, my intent is to keep us on time. It's now 8 o'clock.
Oh, we're done.
So we all,
Thanks.
okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you.
Discussion vote on grant of easement at 288 Lyman Street, and Christie's going to present this, and only 2 minutes behind.
Yep, this is just a grant of easement to Mass Electric for installation of electrical facilities to provide service to 288 Lyman Street. And again, this has been reviewed by Town Council.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
I'm glad to make a motion to approve the grant of easement for the installation of electrical facilities over parcel 1 off Lyman Street, Westborough, to provide service to 288 Lyman Street.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or questions on that?
Is this new service? Or is this repair? I didn't understand. It's more a question. I'm in favor of it, but I'm just
In
curious.
the exhibit, they show a future building, so I think
Okay.
it's service to that future building.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor? We got 5. Okay. Now, update on town manager transition items. And Christie gave us a very nice list.
So I just took the former town manager left a transition memo for me with some sort of ongoing projects, and so I took those projects and just gave you an update under each one of the bullets. So the first is participation in the dashboard committee. We haven't had a meeting yet, but I have reached out to the superintendent, and we're planning to meet prior to the next meeting just to get up to speed on what's been going on. The Forbes Municipal Project, I did attend the Municipal Building Committee on Wednesday. I have been working on this project, specifically with furniture for needs for the departments that are going into this building, so I'll continue to do that. I'm also working very closely with Jim Stewart on the clock tower repair.
Can we discuss the clock tower now, or do we want to discuss?
We're going to do that under the manager's report.
Okay.
The Hopkinton sewer issue was something that the board took up at the last meeting, so this item is actually closed.
I just had a quick question. When does the money actually come through? Is that, I know we assigned it, but.
Right, so we signed the agreement, and I think they had 30 days to transfer. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
The Lyman Street tennis and pickleball court RFP, you just awarded the bid this evening. The MBTA parking, we signed the agreement at the September 25th meeting. The Mill Road property,
Sorry, on the MBTA, so what's the timing of now striping and getting that up and running?
I'll have to follow up with you on
Okay,
that. Yeah.
thanks.
The Mill Road property, we've been in touch with the town manager's contact, who knows that I'm the contact moving forward, but there's no change in the status. The opioid litigation, I don't have an update at this time. The performance measurement project, we did talk about that at the strategic planning meeting on September 26th. It was identified by 2 of the 5 selectmen as a priority. And we had suggested that this be rolled in at a future staffing study. So I marked that as closed. The Regal Cinema property, the item's ongoing. The Spur House, we just received the update from Steve Durrett. As he said, we've met twice and we'll continue to meet throughout the process. The state hospital, I've been in contact with DCAM. Our attorneys are working on a closing date. It's exciting. Trail easements, I did meet with Bruce Schroeder, Don Byrne, Jim Robbins, and Carl Baldoff on October 1st just to get up to speed on their work and understand what needs to happen moving forward. So this is, so you approved the trail easement tonight. We have 2 more that are being reviewed by town council, and then we have the articles on the town meeting warrant. I don't have an update on the West Main Street sidewalk project. The town hall alleyway, the board signed 2 of the easements at the September 25th meeting, and we've also our town council has been contacted by Mr. Lundgren's attorney that he's interested in signing. So, yes. Yeah. So as soon as I get that, I will bring that to a meeting.
Wait till it happens. I've heard this before.
So fall town meeting, the warrant's been posted. Paula's been working really hard on the finance committee report and recommendations, and that's been sent off to the finance committee. I sent out the motions, and I also have in front of you, I have the list of who's going to be presenting on each article. All the ones highlighted in yellow are selectmen's items, so we'll need to assign people to those different articles. There's contract negotiations for 5 unions that will take place this fall. A letter, it says October 5th, the letter actually went out today to initiate negotiations with the 5 unions.
What is it, can we, rather than you going through each, can we just get a copy of the letter?
A copy of the letter that went out to the unions?
To the unions.
Sure.
Well, only just, I'm wondering what the timeline is. That was my question when I read this update. I was wondering, like, what's the timing of initiating that, like, what's the timeline?
Sure, I mean, the letter just says, we need to do this, so let's start, let's get contact.
Because they expire as of
They expire June 30th.
June 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's
your question.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Sure. Selectmen's
I don't
goal-
need a copy then, thank you.
Okay. Selectmen's goals, we put on the October 23rd meeting to talk about that in conjunction with the strategic plan. When we meet on the 23rd, we will have also met with Novak Consulting and the department heads that we assign certain action items to. So we're doing that on the 18th and 19th. And then on the 23rd, I'll have more of an update.
So you'll be able to, I think one of the things that certainly I was interested in was combining the 2 so that we have one document that we can look at for the October the 23rd.
Yeah, so there's certainly overlap, and I provided Julia Novak with the selectmen's goals, so her plan was to work that in some way.
Okay, I think that was the
really?
reason
Okay,
that
she's
we
going
pushed
to
it off
combine
to
it?
the 23rd.
Yeah, we talked about that.
It looked to me that the document that she sent us summarizing our last meeting still had corrections on it, had red lines through it, and I asked if we were going to get one that was finalized. And
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
So we'll work on that. The Eli Whitney property acquisition, I don't have an update. There's the article in the town meeting warrant for to fund the appraisal. And then there's the master plan RFP. I don't have an update at this time. And then
That's something that's actually the responsibility of the planning board, and you're going to help them with it?
Right.
Christie?
Yeah.
And that was also part of our strategic planning that came up multiple times, or ties into that.
And I think I got the impression from the last time we discussed this that the planning board was kind of hoping that we would take this over. Am I getting this?
No, I think they've gone back to,
They've gone
they
back,
want to
okay.
be in charge of it.
I think originally they wanted to combine the strategic plan and master plan together.
Okay.
And we decided, no, that we'd do the strategic plan, do that first. Master plan absolutely comes under the planning board to run it. But we said we will help them. It's an important thing for the town's goals, but they should, as they always said, that run that.
Okay.
So a couple months ago, Jim Malloy had sent out an email to the department heads letting them know that he was going to be setting goals for them going forward and work that into the evaluation process. Some of the department heads replied with some ideas for goals. I haven't done anything with this at this time, so.
I think follow up on the strategic plan and
Yeah.
that would be a great time to relook at it. And,
Right.
Because there's going to be action items coming.
Right,
up with that.
yeah.
Yeah, good point.
And then I just added a couple additional items that were not in the transition memo. So the first is the budget. I've been working with the finance director on that process. different from previous years. The finance director and I have set up a schedule where we're going to expect to meet with the different department heads just to really go through their budget and talk to them about their needs. And that's something, we haven't sent out that initial memo, but we expect to in the next couple weeks, and then we'll meet with them in November.
Sounds like a more collaborative process. I like that. I think we used to do that a long time ago when I was on the Finance Committee. And then that iteration would come to the Finance Committee, and we would talk to department heads too. But I think that sounds like a good idea, Christine.
The next item that wasn't on there is the Capital Expenditure Planning Committee. This is something that I've done for years in my role as the Assistant Town Manager. It actually works really well with these meetings with the department heads because we'll talk about their capital needs. We'll also continue to work with the Capital Expenditure Planning Committee. We usually have about 3 or 4 meetings in the fall, and they put together a rating of all the capital projects, and that's how we create the capital plan. So that's something we'll just move forward.
So Christy, we want to remember to sort of include the new criteria from the GTAG vehicle acquisition.
Yes, I did send that out. Yep.
So you're already working on.
Yeah, so I send out the email usually in August. The deadline to get them back to me was September 26th, I believe, and I did include that when I sent that out.
Wonderful.
Lee, I'm sorry,
Thank
for
you.
point of reference, what were you just saying?
The green technology, the application to become a green community, remember, has a vehicle acquisition
That it's
policy,
incorporated, I understand.
where we have to look at how fuel efficient it is and stuff. And the capital acquisition plan has criteria that they check off for different types of items, so that'll be included.
And then the last item that I added on here was insurance. So that was a large part of my responsibility as Assistant Town Manager. We do have a really wonderful person who comes in from our consulting firm, Sarah Gruen. She's our benefits person. She's available to the staff on Thursdays and Fridays, and she does a fantastic job. So she'll certainly, I'll lean on her a lot to sort of get our open enrollments done and things like that. I did meet with the IAC last week to discuss our retiree plans for the upcoming year, and I think everyone's comfortable. And so our retiree plans renew on a calendar year basis, so that open enrollment will start in the next couple of months.
Very good.
Thank you.
Great, that was great.
Nicely done. So now we have the interim manager, and we're still on time. We're ahead of time.
Stop jinxing us.
Okay, Christy.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to bring up is not on my memo because I don't want to forget. So I talked to Shelby earlier today about using the post that we installed for the banner for the 300th anniversary celebration. I know that was intended as something to be used for town functions, but we haven't created any sort of policy on how we're going to, move that forward. The Rotary is interested in putting up a banner for their event this weekend. And since we don't have a policy, my intent was to just sort of follow the electronic signboard policy that sort of sets out, who gets to use it and what priority it'll be in. And so I was going to go ahead and allow the Rotary to use it.
And I'll say that we're, subsequent to our conversation, for a variety of reasons, we're not going to do that in terms of timing, but I do think it's a good thing that, sort of was bubbled up.
Yeah, great.
Because there will be other requests.
Okay, so then we can bring this up at a future meeting just to amend the policy to include the use of the polls. Yep. So the first item that I have is the open items list. So attached was an open items list that I put together using the most recent open items list that Shelby had sent. So it was from July. And then also using items that the board had brought up at the September 25th meeting, as well as an email that I received from Syed with open items that he had. So my intent would be to sort of follow up on to sort of update this list for every meeting. There's a lot on this one, but I think that's just because it goes back several months.
By the way, really well done on capturing, this was really well done, capturing everything that had happened
Right.
or needs to happen. So thank you. I know it was a lot of work. So
Well, it's nice to see some completed items. I know sometimes we sort of feel like, are we discussing this again? Where are we at? But a tremendous amount of work went into this. I'm sure you and Paula and whomever else collaborated to do this. So thank you, because I think this really helps to collectively organize us as a collective team.
I agree. I went down the future agenda items and started making some notes about where I thought these could be put off to. So maybe at not our next meeting, because I think we'll be busy enough, but the one after that, we could go through them and set priorities. And
It was a great tool for you guys, right?
Sure.
yeah.
So I identify identify the next agenda items, and then future agenda items, but then also ongoing items, and then things that I know are going to be coming up for the next town meeting. So, for example, for the annual town meeting, we had to remove the animal control bylaw from the fall town meeting because we had some more work to do on it. And so that's something that I expect to come up at the annual town meeting.
So that's what I meant, sort of going through them all, making little comments. Where do we throw this? Okay. Selectmen's minutes?
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Selectmen's minutes. I did speak to some members of the board about the possibility of having someone come in and take minutes for the Board of Selectmen instead of having Paula Cavino do that, just to sort of free up some time that she has in the office. This would just be during my interim period so that she can be supportive of some of the things that I need her to be helpful with. Minutes do take up a lot of her time. And so she was, excited about this option. And so it's something that we would just advertise for the position. We had hoped that we could get someone who already takes minutes for the town, so we'll work on that. And we do have the money in the selectmen's budget.
Okay. So I think we're all in agreement?
Yeah, yes.
That's a good idea. Okay.
And in support of it, but just knowing the position of that administrative assistant, it's outside of the union, I believe, and the confidentiality nature of that. Is there any issues we need to address or think about in terms of having someone with those minutes?
So we could have, for the public session, we could have anyone do the minutes. We could certainly ask Paula to come to an executive session, or I could take minutes in executive session. We can kind of figure that out, I think. But I do think we do have some board secretaries already who might sit in on an executive session.
Just something.
Something to consider, yeah.
Good point.
It was brought up at the last meeting after we signed the MBTA agreement that we might want to do something else with the revenue that we get from the parking. I'm just sort of looking for the board's interest in this because there is some work to be done with the finance director and town council to explore what our options are. We could do receipts reserved for appropriation, and then the town meeting would have to appropriate out the money. We could also set up a parking benefit district. And so I'm just kind of looking for the board to let me know what your level of interest is for this.
I liked that parking benefit district idea.
Yeah, but the question, so thank you for doing this. My concern with the parking, I actually like the first option because it gives us a defined place. We involve the voters of the town. We tell them what the money is going to be used for. But I guess that's a more complex way. Am I hearing that correctly?
I don't know that it's more complex. The finance director is still looking into this, but we believe it would still have to be used for parking. So parking operations, regardless of which option you go with. So it's whether or not you want the money to go into the general fund or you want it to be set aside for maintenance.
Did I understand that the parking benefit district concept that, I see invest in walking and biking infrastructure. So, obviously lots of discussion about our B-wall trail and something, so that would be potentially applicable, or benches along the way of those trails or what have you, right? So it's not just for parking.
We're probably going to want passive recreation trails on the Hockomock property right next to it as soon as it's given over to us.
All right, so I'll put this on a future agenda and I'll provide more information.
Yeah.
The town hall clock tower. We started work on the town hall clock tower today. As you know, there's been water damage from leaking that's been going on since we moved back into the building in 2015. we're working with the contractors who were working on the building during that time and also doing the roofing, as well as our OPM, who's currently also the OPM on the Forbes project, and the architect. Right now, we're just trying to fix it so that the leaking will stop, and then we will certainly look into what we need to do to repair the plaster, the insulation, do any sort of mold remediation, anything like that. So the town has hired an independent third party to observe the work that's being done. This is someone who's done 2 previous independent evaluations of the clock tower. And so they're going to be working with Jim Stewart to sort of observe the work and offer their perspective on behalf of the town. So they started work today. I know that there's rain coming, so that'll sort of impact how quickly this gets done, but they are working on it.
So I had a couple of questions about this, Madam Chair.
Well, we are going to discuss this in executive session.
Are we going to
Go
discuss this
back
in
into-
executive session?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Then I'll hold
there
off.
might be questions that would be okay for them?
Yeah, absolutely, I'll hold off.
That is all I have.
Okay.
Great update.
So, Bruce, you have issues and correspondence?
I do. I just have one thing. Last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, I went to the 25th anniversary of the Minuteman Trail. The Minuteman Trail runs from Bedford to Arlington, continues into Cambridge, but the dedicated part that was a rail trail goes from Bedford to Arlington, the center of Arlington. And 25 years, and it's a terrific testament to a trail that connects multiple towns, actually connects all the way into Boston. And it was terrific to see how many people were on that trail that day and how well behaved they were. And it was really split between cyclists and walkers. And then you asked about baby carriages. Yeah, all that stuff. Baby carriages, people who were handicapped. The full gamut of people that were out there. There were kids, students from the high schools playing music. It was a terrific, very tasteful event. Yeah. So it's something we can aspire to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Shelby.
Yes, so on a fun note, I do want to speak to the Fall Festival that's taking place this Saturday, and actually a portion of it on Sunday, but Saturday at Bay State Commons at 11 o'clock. The Rotary will host its Spring Festival in fall. There's not going to be any rain, that's a guarantee. So we ask who left?
I did.
Mr. Durrett?
Yes. I hope that's true, so we can finish the track at the high school.
Okay, well, we have different objectives. Right now, we're talking about the Fall Festival. No, so we're hoping everyone will come out and enjoy some time. There's music, fun for kids, fun for dogs and dog owners, and there will be food and craft beer. So come on out and enjoy kind of the community. And everyone talks about wanting more community things. This is a great way to do that.
Craft beer, that's a new thing, huh?
It is.
We had that last year.
Yeah, so come on up. We really, appreciate your support. And then there'll be a car show on Sunday at 50 East Main Street, which is at the Arturo's parking lot, so vintage cars and that sort of thing. So check that out if that's your area of interest. 2 items I'd like the board to kind of consider going forward. So Lee, if you can help me with the appropriate way to kind of request this. So one is, I think we're coming up on about a year of the Economic Development Coordinator being in her position and kind of looking at the goals and performance of kind of like how are things going. And obviously the EDC has kind of gotten a little bit off track, right, because we had that non-resident piece and not able to have meetings. But we did establish what were overall goals for the committee. And I think it would be helpful for the board to kind of get an update. And certainly once the EDC meetings resume, as the liaison to that board, I can bring those updates, but I do think the specific goals and kind of achievements of those goals that the EDC set, it would be helpful for the board to have a specific update.
You stole my thunder.
Well, I agree with you, Shelby, and I have a slight twist on it maybe as well. We funded this full-time position, and I have no idea what she's really doing. And I do want to know how we're spending that money. So I really want a very concrete view of this. And also, I have concerns, Christy, you're doing assistant town manager things and you're doing interim town manager things. Are there things that this person could be helpful with, and that would be a legitimate use for this interim period? But I really want to know that 100% of her time is focusing on economic development. And I have no idea if that's true or not. And if it isn't true, I would like to understand why.
Right.
So I would like a full accounting of what she's been doing. Not trying to be judgmental about her as a person, but this is a position that we funded for a very specific reason.
And I think part of that challenge, honestly, is just because we haven't had this is just my view, because we haven't had the EDC meetings.
Yeah.
So that visibility has been a real challenge, and that kind of common level of engagement. So I just wanted to make it known. I don't think it's like an immediate, like we need this next meeting, what have you, but I do think there's a piece that folks want to know, and I'm not the only one asking. Other folks have come to me, both as representative or liaison to that committee, as well as just folks kind of in the business community, and folks kind of saying, hey, so what are we doing? That sort of thing. So, okay. And then the other piece, I don't know what we've done in the past, and this is my rookie question, but when we have large projects, large municipal projects, and I know there's been lots of kind of discussion about the Forbes project and kind of how we're to budget or, in contingency. But I think we might want to take it under consideration after the project's done, not now, to do kind of like a formal audit, that's my own word, I don't know if, or review of that project. And I don't know if we've done that in the past, but I think there's always sort of lessons learned with any large project, and again, not sure, I don't know, I'm not necessarily making a formal motion, but I just want to plant that seed.
Okay. Mr. Johnson.
I just had one thing that had come up, and I had talked briefly with Mr. Story beforehand, but just something that was brought to my attention by a constituent who happened to be my wife. But if folks remember that for a number of years when we first placed the Vietnam Memorial, it was out by the baseball field at the high school. And recently we were able to move that with all the other war memorials across at the Forbes building. But since that time, that area has kind of been left kind of by itself, and thinking about as we're moving forward with all the work that's been done on the stadium project for the high school, and that's one of the main entranceways in. And in looking at it today, it's the gardens that were there, they're being maintained, are now overgrown. There's one light that's still on at the memorial, but there's nothing there to shine on. And probably most importantly, there's still a sign up that welcomes people to the Vietnam Memorial there. So I guess the question is, in some ways it's town property. I think it's being maintained by the schools from a mowing and whatever, but I think that's the extent of it, and just something to put out there again as one. I think that sign should come down, and maybe something we work with Christie can work with the DPW. I'm sure that the trustees of memorials, but we probably should just inform them that the sign's there, but we should take it down. And two is if we could just maybe figure out the maintenance and just really clean up the area as well. And maybe it's just very overgrown.
Maybe the school has some other purpose they'd like to use it for. If it's an entrance to the school, it might be something nice.
Well, I think it's something to discuss. I don't know. And that was my question about whether it's town property. Schools are town property. It was maintained for the war memorial, is maintained by the town, I believe, but now it may be something for the schools.
Comment, Mr. Durrett, from the school committee?
Yeah, school property has a unique status within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and my memory is kind of fuzzy on whether or not the school actually gave the land back to the town, because without a vote of the school committee, that can't happen. But on the other hand, obviously there was no discussion or interest not to supply the veterans an opportunity to put up the war memorial. So I think the first thing we need to do is figure out whether the schools released it or not. If we did, then it's the town's issue to maintain. If it's the schools, then obviously working with the Board of Selectmen, then we can figure out what the town wants to do with it, and either then grant it to the town, or in effect take it back and make it part of the school property again.
Yep.
But certainly, it's a nice place, and a lot of people like to
Yeah.
park there, so.
Yeah.
Well, and it could be, I think that's part of it, it could be more parking too for
Yeah,
the fields there, whatnot, yeah. And that was a question I had asked Earl, is, I don't know who owns it, and I think
Yeah,
probably the first
but
thing.
obviously, we're going to work to make sure that your constituent is happy with the outcome.
Thank you.
Oh, good, okay, all right.
She'll be happy when I get home.
Anything else?
That is all I think.
I would be glad to take the sign down and shut the power off the light.
Great.
Just a power box for service over there, right, Steve? Steve, but there's a service over there
Yes.
on Ruggles Street, and
Yes.
you just open that box, shut the power off to that light, and I'll look at that sign tomorrow morning and take it down and put it up to DPW someplace in the veterans bar. Well, give it to the, whoever wants it,
Okay,
Yeah, so it's really just it's not anything fancy, it doesn't, but it doesn't need to be either welcoming people to the memorial, it
If
doesn't.
that's all right with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, enough said.
Just to speak to that, because that service is there and it actually is a conduit underneath the road, for school purposes, that's a very valuable service.
Absolutely.
So, whatever ends up happening to it, certainly the school would like to have first dibs on that access to that power.
I was just thinking I'd shut the breaker off.
No, that's fine.
I agree with you.
Bring back your.
I agree with you. That's on the ground that's over there, that's an important.
Okay, great, good, thank you, let's move on. Anything else? Ian, okay. Sad.
Well, first, Mr. Story people have been stealing my thunder, but Mr. Story stole mine. I think the point that he made was a very valid one, and I know it's part of our to-do list, or one of the things I want to discuss, but I think it would be helpful after this fall town meeting to regroup, because we're going to be adding extra police, extra fire department. I think as a board, we need to discuss what the town finances are, after Christie's got a sense of where the budget is going. And I think we need to set priorities for the next budget coming up, and then we need to engage the other boards. So I would urge that the board take an interest in this and consider, like, we decide the priorities and then have a financial summit with the other boards, for instance, the school board. And that's something we can discuss. Did you, and Christy, this is to you, you don't need to answer this now. Did you get the thing about the downtown parking or something? Can you send me an email back on that? There was some concern from the residents that the lines are not in the middle of the road.
Yeah, so John Walden did respond. They're trying to schedule that.
The concern was just.
Oh, so there was concern about the road out here not being striped?
Yeah, I think that was, and there are no lines for parking.
And so they're working to schedule that. They've had some difficulty with rain and such, but they are working on that.
Perfect, thank you. I just want to let people know their depression screening will be held. Depression is an important public health problem, so please go. And then the Board of Health, in all transparency, Madam Chair, I'm a member of the Board of Health, is holding Hazardous Waste Disposal Day on Saturday, October 27th at the DPW. And then Westborough Connects is...
Just repeat the date.
It's Saturday, October the 27th at the DPW.
Hazardous waste.
I'm sorry?
Hazardous waste.
Yeah, hazardous waste. And
It
then,
only happens once a year.
Mr. Duray, I think it's in the morning, but I think we have a
8 a.m.
news release on our Board of Health website. Thank you. And then Westborough Connects is holding an event on October the 25th from one of the Lost Boys of Sudan, so I hope people will go to that. And then I want to kind of address, and by the way, we did not coordinate the like minds think alike, but our success as a town is fundamentally linked to our economic development. And it's of great concern to me also that we haven't met with the coordinator. I don't think she's come to any of our meetings. I don't think she came to did she come to any of the planning meetings that we had, the strategic planning meetings?
Yeah.
She did?
She
Okay.
attended.
Okay, she did?
No,
Okay.
she wasn't invited. She's not a department head.
Oh, she wasn't invited? Because the thing is,
I thought she was there.
this is the...
So she didn't come to the ones that you met, where you met with department heads, because she's not a department head.
Oh,
She
okay.
was part of the department head only.
She sat
retreat.
next to me at the last meeting, at strategic planning. Oh, you're not talking about Leah Talbot?
No, I'm talking about economic development, because, I mean, the Marlborough's economic
you're
development
right. Yes,
person is,
yeah.
making the
I wondered why she
newspaper.
wasn't there too. I'm sorry.
And so people are asking, as Shelby was saying, that, and I think both her and I are getting the same email. So I would just say that it would be helpful to bring our coordinator, and we also need to find ways to emphasize local spending and local investment, and find out how much of our own department spending, for instance, in schools, is done locally, and maybe the ADC coordinator can help us, like, for instance, bulk purchases. We can purchase, can we not do that?
I don't think that's her role.
That's not really her role.
No, that's, okay. So maybe as a town, we could consider, like, supporting our local businesses by trying to buy as much as we can locally.
Well, we talked about collaborative bulk kind of purchasing through strategic planning. I remember specifically
Yes.
that came up as
Right. Yeah, so we talked about the potential for adding a purchasing agent position that would be shared by the town and the school. I mean, we do have to comply with the procurement laws, and so
Okay.
I think sometimes that makes it a little bit more difficult. I do just kind of want to speak up for, I understand the board's interest in having the EDC coordinator come, but I can assure you, I do want to assure you right now that she is working very hard, and she is out and about in the community.
Okay.
But absolutely, I'll have her come.
All right, and then,
I'm trying, this is the issues and correspondence for the selectmen, Steve, so I'm trying to get through this, but
Yeah,
I'll come
I just
back.
wanted to comment on, the schools have the Asset Valley Collaborative, which is I'm going to say about 9 towns, all school systems, we all buy together. And in fact, there may be a way for selectmen that select people or the other half of the town, either to do the same thing or do it with a collaborative.
oh, okay.
We go as far west as Auburn as part of the program, Grafton, all the other towns around here. It saves a lot of money.
Sure.
Wow.
We do, different departments are part of different purchasing groups, so.
But I think
Like public
we
safety.
identified that there's an opportunity.
Right, and to along those lines, our resident recently pointed out to me that in Brick, New Jersey, there's a Brick Property Tax Reward Card program, which is that if residents shop and dine at participating businesses, they can earn credit towards their property taxes. So, I mean, there are innovative programs out there that can not only support local businesses, but create a sense of loyalty to the town. So it would be helpful to have these conversations.
Ian and I would have big discounts.
So,
I'm not paying taxes anymore.
so in any event, just
Pay my
something,
credit card bill.
just something to consider, and just stay well and safe. By the way, mosquitoes are still out, so please be careful and wear appropriate clothing in the evenings. Thank you.
I do want to just add that I do have the Hazardous Waste Day drop-off. It is Saturday, October 27th, as Sy had already mentioned, from 7:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the DPW facility at 131 Oak Street.
I have it right here.
And- and-
Beat me to it. It's actually the great thing, so I was going to ask to put it on the front page of the website, but it's
Right.
already there.
And they do close at 12:30, you said they actually do, so you get it at 12, so you do have to be there. Get in line, because the line can be long, yeah.
It's a
But-
great,
Don't wait till the end.
But there are definitely some things, go to the website, it's very clear some of the things you don't have to bring, because nothing's more frustrating than bringing a whole car full of latex paint, and they say, you just could have disposed of that, and here's how. So read the memo.
and you will
Okay.
wait in line. So when you do that and you realize you don't have to be there and you waited in line,
Okay,
Important stuff.
all right.
Thank you to the Board of Health. Sorry, Madam Chair.
Are you done?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I have a request from Ed Bain, which some of you all may have seen. The Charter Review Committee would like to meet with us to talk about the effect of our town manager's search on their work. And they wondered if they could meet with us on their meeting Thursday, October 11th, or the 18th, instead of doing it within one of our meetings, so they can have a lengthy discussion. Would you be willing? Are you guys
I
available?
can't be there the 11th.
I'm not sure about the 11th either.
How about October 18th?
18th.
Yeah,
Don't
would
know.
that work?
Don't know.
What
I
time?
don't know.
Well, I think, do you know
Are
what?
we going to be done by the 18th, because it's town meeting also, right?
We better be done by then.
Yeah,
You hope we're going to be done by
I think they probably meet
I'm on the 17th.
at 7. There's probably somebody could look it up
I'm
on
looking
the
it
town. Well, I go to the next thing, maybe somebody could look that up. But I presume it would be something like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on the 18th. Then, I just wanted you to know about the Green Technology Green Community application. The committee has done a terrific job. They're going to be filing their application a week or two before the deadline. And then we will start meeting with DPW and the schools to start to prioritize what projects we want to fund if we are approved, because we're assuming that we will be approved. And then we'll have $140,000 as a designation grant. And where, as a Board of Selectmen, are going to have to choose between different initiatives and say what we want to go forward. But the interesting thing is they'll announce who's been approved in December, but then by the end of February, they want the proposals in for that $140,000. Yeah, so it's a quick turnaround. So we decided to start meeting with DPW and the schools, we were talking to Amber, really quite soon to start the preliminary work. So I just wanted you to be aware. I didn't want you to be surprised and say, why are you guys meeting with departments or something? And then I just have a suggestion to go on an agenda for some time in the future, that we might move our vacancy list, instead of doing it every single meeting, doing it once a month, and directing people to the town website,
Yes.
the other meeting. And also, sometimes we have really important dates, like this hazardous waste date. Instead of waiting to the very end of the meeting when people probably aren't watching, especially if it's a town-sponsored thing, maybe we want to do that right up before open forum. So I want to have that be considered as an agenda item. And then we might have other things that we say, well, if it's something like the Rotary Club, they could be too, because it's such a huge town thing, or school issues. You know, as long as we think it's important that we want people to know. So those are my
And could I just
issues.
make one plug, Madam Chair? Speaking of timeliness, so one of the things that's on the to-do list is, potentially looking at climate change awareness. That is, the grants for that are also going to be coming up, so I would encourage, it's on our to-do list, so I would encourage listening to this, bringing this lady into the board, because she can help us get through some of those programs, and then because the timing for that is also coming up. So just something to be aware of.
Well, that was, I think we have to think hard about
Yeah,
this.
I know.
Because when we went through our strategic plan goals, we had some things at 5, there was unanimous approval,
Right,
and some
I
there were
understand.
2. So we've got to make sure that what we're doing is consistent with the
Right.
goals we set out.
Yeah, and I just put everything on that people have brought up, and so I think that, if the board wants to take a look at some of those items and remove them at some point, then
Yeah,
that's.
I think that will be our agenda. After the next agenda will be to go through those and start to give some priorities to those. So, our next, yes?
Excuse me, I did not find a date for the charter review next meeting. I didn't see that in the town calendar.
So it's not on the, it's not posted yet, but
Right.
their previous meeting was at 7 o'clock.
7. So can people as long as at least 3 of us can be there for the 18th at 7, I can be there. Bruce?
18th to the 11th. Which date? Which date?
On the
I cannot do the
18th?
11th, which is this Thursday.
I would prefer the 18th.
Yeah, 18th would be better.
Okay, let's do the 18th, and I will let Ed know.
So we would need to post that as a meeting.
Right.
Yes,
And-
that joint meeting.
Actually, I can't make the, so
I think we've got 3, so it'll be all set.
Well, sorry, I guess the concern, though, is that they're looking for direction from the board.
So you think
So-
the whole board should be there?
Yeah, or else we,
I think it's too big of an issue.
Okay,
That's-
all right,
Yeah,
all right, okay, that's good.
I mean, I think it was
Then we can
one,
either put them into one of our meetings?
Yep.
and that's why I'd asked, and Ed's comment was that they want to do it separately, but maybe they can meet with us, like we can do
I think we should.
6 o'clock
We could do
on
something
our
like
next
that.
meeting or something
Sure.
like that, if people are willing to do.
Yeah, I think that would.
Because
so we have
for our
something
next
we're
meeting,
discussing.
let's just think about the context of the next meeting then. What I have down, and I'm sure you have things to add, is the RFP and process to start the search for the town manager. So within that, we'll be discussing what role the acting town manager can have without breaking a conflict of interest rule. We may want to reconsider the residency requirement. And we're going to begin discussion on the makeup of the search committee. So that's going to be a pretty robust discussion. And then we have the strategic plan synergy with the Board of Selectmen goals, because we want those aligned. So we've got those 2 things.
And we have an executive session that we just discussed at 5:30, Madam Chair. That item.
Next one?
I thought, are we discussing that item at our next meeting? The topics we discussed earlier this?
Yeah, we didn't set for 5:30, though, I don't think.
We're having an executive session right after this meeting.
No,
The one we had at 5:30 today.
the topics that we discussed.
Okay.
So are we going to be following up on that at the October?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
we
that-
are.
What is that, though, before the meeting, or we didn't decide when it was going to, it could be
Can we do it
normal time
before?
after.
You want to do it normal time after? Because then we have to.
No,
keep
because we have to have
those-
the lawyers, so I would say that we do the same thing that we did at 5:30. What do you think?
Can you do it? Or just 6 instead of 6:30?
6 would be
Take
great.
half an hour.
I had to leave Boston at 3:30 today.
Oh, my
I'll be there
God.
20 past 5.
So we do it, or should we do it at 6? And then
It was a
what?
shorter commute than this morning. Let me just check my calendar, sorry.
Because that may impact whether we call the, what is it called, the Charter Review Committee, because we may want to meet with our lawyers first.
Yeah, I could do it early.
Well, we can do the charter, we can meet with them the next meeting. We don't,
Right.
it's not like time sensitive, terribly time sensitive.
Well, I do think that they've got a really engaged and enthusiastic group, and I think that there's an understandable sense of, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be sort of, I mean, I
You
hope
don't
they're
put them
listening
off.
tonight, I don't want to put them
Yeah.
off, but I hope there's certainly an appreciation for kind of how we get that scheduled.
Maybe we can,
Could we meet with them, assuming that next Tuesday, we're still going to be in town meeting?
oh, yeah,
At 7, could we meet with them
At
at
6.
6 or 6:30
yeah.
Let's ask them if they can do
before,
that.
and just post
Do we
that?
need to, would we need to post that?
I
Yes.
think we're already posted, we'll already be posted
Yeah,
for
we're
the
posted.
15th. Oh,
We're always supposed
actually, can we just make sure we're posted for the 15th for a meeting if
Yeah.
we're not already?
But, I mean, are we posted before then also?
We'll be posted throughout town meeting.
Usually we post it for 6, starting at 6, and then we decide, do we need to be there at 6 or 6:30?
Oh,
depending
then,
on-
yeah, I think that's a great compromise.
So we can do the 15th or the 16th. We could probably do.
I think the 15th, you are going to have an executive session.
just gonna say-
Right, the
for
15th
town
already
meeting.
have
So
us.
the 16th might be.
What was bad about the 15th?
The 15th, we talked about having an executive session as a follow-up to today's
Today's
executive
executive
session on
session.
the matter discussed.
Okay.
And then on the 23rd,
Yeah.
potentially, in our public session, we may have a public discussion about that matter.
You're right, okay.
Who's on first?
Wow.
So I think we
So the
already.
23rd may work then,
Yeah, the 23rd may work for what?
Charter
charter
review
review.
is part of our meeting.
I forgot the executive session we're talking about.
No, but-
is the 15th.
Yes.
We're talking about on the 15th, but there's also a follow-up discussion that we're going to be having on the 23rd.
No, but that's potential public.
That would be public.
Oh,
Yes.
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 okay.
Yep. So I think my recommendation would be we put charter review as part of the discussion on the 23rd.
Okay.
I think to do it with town meeting is a lot, and it's hard
So
enough to
much
get to
going
town
on.
meeting.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm sorry, will we need our lawyers on the 23rd? Will we need,
No.
you don't think so?
Oh, no, not for the charter review issue.
No, not for the charter, I'm talking about the issue we discussed at 5:30.
We'll let them know.
I thought that was the 15th. We need them.
That was the 15th. yeah.
I know, but I think
We
to
said
say-
we did want them.
Okay.
Yeah, we said that.
I think if we have a public discussion, we determine on the 15th that we need them for the 23rd, then we ask them
Okay,
to be
all
there on
right,
the
okay.
23rd.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
We probably won't.
I think that's a lot.
Okay, so that sounds like that's the agenda then, for the agenda for our
So-
next regular meeting.
But Christie had listed on her list Youth and Family Services for the 23rd, amended administrative job description.
Okay,
That's quick.
we'll
Okay.
do that.
That's just.
And the
assuming-
government internship can wait, I mean, this is going to be a hefty meeting.
Yeah.
It's going to be,
Anything else, Christie?
There will always be something else.
there will always be, there will
I
always
bet you there'll be more than one.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that means that we can reconvene our executive session, and at the end, we will not reconvene an open session. So we'll have to ask everybody to go home.
So do we stay
Lucky
here?
you.
Thank you.
Do we stay here?
Yes, and I don't think we have to move because we already, we don't have to move it because we've already opened it, we just reopened it.
You have both of them?